Hello mate, welcome back to the Elliot Lake Football Channel. Haven't made a video in a couple of weeks just because of various reasons. I had COVID, also wasn't in Bristol, which is where I live, so I couldn't make a video because I didn't have the equipment. But we're back now. We're going to do a video about Manchester United. Who are they going to keep for next season? Who are they going to get rid of? It's been a really interesting couple of weeks for the club, deciding that they're going to replace Ralph Rangnick with Erik Ten Hag, and we're just going to have a little look through their current squad and decide who we think could potentially leave the club, who Erik Ten Hag is going to want to keep, and who are those players who maybe we're a little bit unsure about but could possibly stay during the transition period with United trying to rebuild and get back into those elite clubs in England, up with the Man Cities and the Liverpools, because eventually that is where they're going to want to be. So I'm going to do a new kind of video. We're going to do a screen share, and I've got a tier maker up. So we're going to go through the current United squad and then decide who we're keeping and who we're getting rid of. So we've got four categories here. He's a Ten Hag player. He's going to fit into the system really nicely, and they should definitely keep him. We've got a keep for transition, which means that over the next couple of years, they can maybe use the player as a squad player, along with the new signings and the players who definitely could be kept. We've got an option to say sell if the right offer comes in. So a player which might not necessarily be the best thing to get rid of this summer, but if they do get a good offer, then he should go. And then we've got a get rid option for players who just have overstayed their welcome at the club and really need to get out. So I'm going to try and go all the way through as like a bit of a podcast, no edits on the video. So we'll just get going. And we're going to start with this man here, Phil Jones. For me, he's a Ten Hag player. I think he's been excellent when he's come in this season. I remember back with the game against Wolves, when he came in, he was the best player on the pitch. And I think that shows that potentially they need to sign him on to another contract. He's out of contract at the end of next season. So it's going to be really important that Ten Hag sorts that contract situation out as soon as he comes in, because Phil Jones has really been one of United's better players this season and instrumental in how they've performed on the pitch. So definitely keep Phil Jones if it's up to me. We're going to do this completely at random, so we'll see who's next. This guy, Hannibal. I think we saw him come on against Liverpool, didn't we? When United were dreadful in the first half, absolutely shocking. They had no bite to them, but let me tell you, Hannibal, he's got a bit of bite to him, and I think he definitely deserves a chance to show what he can do under Erik Ten Hag. So for me, he's definitely one to keep. Jesse Lingard. It's really difficult because I think Lingard's got so much to offer, but with Bruno being there and some of the other attacking players, he really hasn't got a chance to prove himself. And we know what he can do, given what he did at West Ham last season. He can score goals, but I think he's out of contract, and it's probably time for Lingard and Man United to part ways, which is disappointing because I still feel he's got a bit to offer, but he is 29 now, so maybe it's time for him to move on. He could go to a Newcastle or something, which I think would really possibly reignite his career, which would be great. David De Gea, he's got to stay. He's Manchester United's best player. I think he's on maybe to win his 5th Player of the Year this season, which I don't think anyone would dispute that at all. So De Gea's got to stay. Really important, although in the last couple of weeks he has maybe been moaned about his teammates a little bit too much, but you hope with a bit of an overhaul that could possibly stop next season. Alex Telles, I think he's a sell if the right offer comes in. I don't think it's urgent that he leaves the club, but with Luke Shaw, I think Luke Shaw is probably the better left back of the two of them when Shaw is fit, and Shaw is probably going to be favoured by Ten Hag. So Alex Telles, maybe if he's happy with a backup role, maybe playing a few of the cup competitions, could stay, but if they do get an offer, I'd probably sell. Wan Basaka. This is a really interesting one because he's had a few years now to prove himself at United, and I'm not sure that he has. Defensively, he's fantastic. One of the best in the league in that position when he's facing his own goal. But going forward, I just don't think he's good enough to be the starting right back for a team who wants to be challenging for the Premier League title, which is where United do eventually want to be in the next few years. So I think he's another sell if the right offer comes in, because they're going to need a better right back. We see how important the fullback positions are in the teams like City, Liverpool. It's really important that you get that position right. So I think Wan Basaka's had his chance, maybe not necessarily the player for United. Although I would love to see him in a right centre-back position, maybe the one that Kyle Walker plays for England. I think he'd be so good in that position with his recovery runs, his pace, his tackling is superb. So if they ever revert to a three at the back, I could maybe see him slotting in there. But at the minute, as a right back, I think we sell if the right offer comes in. Anthony Martial is get rid, I think, for me. We'll wait and see what Ten Hag thinks about him, but he's gone on loan to Sevilla, and he hasn't scored in 8 appearances in the league for them, which is disappointing in La Liga. He just seems to have lost a little bit of that hunger that he had. 2 seasons ago, he scored 17 Premier League goals, and we thought, wow, maybe Martial really is going to be that player which United need, that player that will press from the front and score goals as well. But he hasn't managed to do it, and I think his time at United is probably up. I don't think he particularly wants to be there. We've heard so much stuff come out about what the dressing room's like at United at the minute. So Martial, I think, for me, has got to go. Pellistri, I think Pellistri we sell if the right offer comes in. He's been on loan in La Liga again this season, and he hasn't performed well. We don't hear anything about Pellistri in the news. He's 20 years old. We'll wait to see whether Ten Hag likes him, but I think sell if the right offer comes in. Anthony Elanga, I think I'll go keep for transition because he's still got a bit to prove for me. He's had a few really fantastic performances. Scored the goal against Atletico Madrid away from home in the Champions League, which was a massive goal, and I think he's maybe forcing his way a little bit in terms of those attacking players, but he has got a bit to prove, and I think hopefully in the next couple of seasons he does that and turns into a Ten Hag player, which I think a lot of Man United fans would love to see, given his new fantastic song, which I think everyone loves. I certainly love it. Lingard, he's out of contract this year. We probably won't touch too much on him. I think get rid. We've got Tom Heaton here, which I think we keep for transition. He's got 1 year left on his deal, Tom Heaton, and maybe you need that leadership in the dressing room through this period. So I think Tom Heaton could probably offer that. Edinson Cavani, I think he's out of contract this summer as well. So I'm going to go sell if the right offer comes in. Hang on, I haven't written in there. There we go. Ooh, little technical error. Sorry about that. Edinson Cavani, sell if the right offer comes in. I don't think he'll sign a new deal. Man United desperately need another striker for me. He's getting on a little bit. I think one of the things that is really important this summer is they start to get some younger players in. And Cavani's been one of those who's experienced this unrest in the dressing room, and I think it's probably the right time for him to go. He's obviously very injury prone as well, which nobody needs. Luke Shaw, I'm going to put him in. He's a Ten Hag player. He's maybe fell out of favour a little bit in the last stage of the season under Ralf Rangnick, but we saw how good he was last season. He was the best left back in the league. He played really well for England in the summer at the Euros, and I think he's definitely got a future. He's not that old. And he's proven that he can play. He can play defensively well and run forward really effectively on that left-hand side of the defence. So I think if you're looking at one full-back position to replace, it's definitely on the right-hand side. And for me, Shaw stays. Harry Maguire. This might be controversial, but do I go keep a transition or he's a Ten Hag player? I'm going to go keep a transition, because I think it is important that Maguire is backed, because we've seen in the past that he can play an important role for a team. He's been really good for England in the past. He obviously hasn't had the best season, we all know that, but last season he wasn't too bad, and I think long term he's probably one that they will want to replace, but for now I think it's important that they stick by him. He's club captain. Not saying that that is a reason to stay at the club, but Maguire, for me, stays at this particular moment in time. Diego Dalot, he's a young player, so I'll go keep the transition. He's got a lot to prove. Maybe he could be that replacement for Wan Basaka, who I don't have, as we've spoken about, I don't think is good enough. But Diego Dalot is one that maybe could fill those boots, because going forward he is a lot better. I mean, at the weekend he had that amazing shot against Arsenal from outside the box that came off the bar, and then the save from Ramsdale, which meant that Dalot hit the post. So I think Dalot, one to keep the transition, definitely. Next, we'll go to a player who, for me, is one of the problems at United this season. There's obviously bigger problems than this man, but it really, really annoys me when Bruno Fernandez is moaning on the pitch at his teammates, at the ref. He wears the armband when Maguire's not on the pitch, and I don't think he's captain material at all. He was brilliant when he first came to United, goals and assists, but they've really dried up lately. And I think it's unfortunate, actually, that he's signed a new deal really recently, which keeps him at the club for a little while yet, because I'd say sell if the right offer comes in. No, I wouldn't. Would I? Would I go sell? No, I don't think I can. I'll go keep a transition, because he seems disinterested, and I think as one of the leaders in the dressing room, he's certainly been one of the problems. His pressing stats this year are abysmal, and he's one of the players which, when the pundits are calling him out but they won't name him, he's certainly one of them. So I'll go keep a transition, but I think without that contract extension, he would be running the risk of being sold at some point potentially. Rafael Varane, I think keep the transition. He's proven at Real Madrid that he has been one of the best centre backs in the world. Hasn't necessarily got the minutes that he would have liked this season because of injury, but there's a player there, and hopefully can become one of the leaders at the back for United, because they certainly need some. Eric Bailly, get rid. Can't get on the pitch. Only 4 appearances in the Premier League this season, and I think his time's up. You know, doesn't seem interested. Probably one of the issues. Maybe doesn't work hard in training. I think it's time for him to go. Donny Van Der Beek is a really interesting one for everybody, just because he has played for Ten Hag before at Ajax and had such success playing under him, reached the Champions League semi-final with Ajax and got that big move to United on the back of his form for Ajax under Ten Hag. We look at Ajax's style of play. They do like to keep possession of the ball, which Donny Van Der Beek is brilliant at. Whether he can match the physicality and the athleticism of many, many Premier League players is yet to be seen. I'm not quite sure he can, but if United do play how Ajax play this season, and that's how Ten Hag wants to play and keeping the ball, then Donny Van Der Beek will be good. But I worry about him going when they do have possession of the ball and then teams spin and turn and counter attack them. He's definitely not one who's going to race back. So I'll say keep the transition, because I think he'll have a role to play under a manager who's really favoured him in the past. But I don't think that he'll be there long term. Can't even get in the Everton team this year. Amad Diallo, he's had a really poor stint at Rangers. Gio van Bronckhorst was calling him out the other day for not performing on the pitch, whether he's not into playing on loan at Rangers, although they're in the semi-final of the Europa League. Like, what more motivation can you want than that? So I'd say sell if the right offer comes in. I know he's only 19, but if you can't do it at Rangers, I don't think you're going to do it at Man United, I'm afraid. Andreas Pereira, get rid of him. He's overstayed his welcome. He's probably on a very lucrative deal at United, and I don't think there's going to be room for him in the dressing room next season. I think it's time to go. Nemanja Matic, exactly the same. Seems disinterested at the end of this season. Was really poor when he came on against Liverpool for Paul Pogba. He's already said he's leaving, so this is much of a non-debate, but I think he should go anyway. 33 years old. He's probably past it in the Premier League, if you ask me. Dean Henderson. I think sell if the right offer comes in. He's not going to get past De Gea. De Gea's still got 3-4 years at the top of his game. And I think Dean Henderson, if he wants to really progress get back into the England squad, get some Premier League appearances under his belt. He's got to leave United. I'm not saying get rid, because he's obviously a very good number 2 to De Gea, but I think if they get enough money, I'd sell Dean Henderson and cash in while you can, which they haven't done in the past. Look at Lingard, players like him, they could have cashed in on him. He hasn't barely played any games this season, so they need to start managing the club better from the top, and selling Dean Henderson this summer would be a very good start to that. Scotty McSauce, I think you've got to keep him. For me, he's one of the players this season who's come out and been really honest in interviews, which I love about him. You can tell that he's got the makings of a really good leader at United. I'm not saying that he's going to pull any roots up and turn into a dominating central midfielder in the Premier League, but he's got a role to play in bringing the youngsters through. I know he's a youngster himself, but he's turned out to be such a leader, I feel, in a team that lacks leaders. So I think he stays for a little while yet. I think he's got that combative energy you need in the Premier League, and he can pick a pass and he can score a goal, and he scored some important goals. Remember that one he scored from 30 yards when Henderson was out of his goal in the Manchester derby. So he's got that to his game. So I think he's a Ten Hag player for me. Victor Lindelof, I feel like we're going to get rid of loads of centre-backs here, but I think maybe sell if the right offer comes in. Don't think he's proven himself to be a standout defender. He's obviously lost his place to Raphael Varane when Varane's been fit this year. So I think sell if the right offer comes in, and the more centre-backs you can get out, the more you can bring in. Bring in some young centre-backs, which I think would be great for United. We're down to the last, the famous four. We're going to leave it. Wan Basaka, he's out of contract. I love Mata. I think he's going to be a great coach or voice in the game when he retires. I think he could be a good manager. Speaks so eloquently, but his time at United's up for me. I think he's not having much of an impact this season. He certainly won't next year. So he's going to go. Fred, keep for transition. I think this has been Fred's best year in a Man United shirt, and I think as the transition period plays out, he's probably one to watch, because if he continues his growth, I think a lot of Man United fans were annoyed. I certainly got annoyed at him when he was giving the ball away left, right, and centre in previous seasons. But this year, he's churned out a few decent performances and maybe made. They're no world beaters, but him and McTominay as a two, I think Man United is definitely their best options this year. But yeah, I think keep for transition and see if he can develop as a player under Ten Hag. We're down to the final four: Sancho, Ronaldo, Rashford and Pogba. There's going to be so much chatter about these lads going forward into the summer. Who should we start with? Let's start with Pogba, because I think he's the most obvious. Get him out of the club. He should have left years ago. They should have sold him when they had the chance. Whether he wanted to go, I'm not sure. But it's time for him to go. I think the reception he'll get at Manchester United when he comes back as an opposition player is going to be horrendous. He limped off against Liverpool. He just seemed disinterested. I think he's ready to go. And to be honest, good riddance. He's not fitted in Manchester United style. He's not a Premier League player. He's a luxury player. And that's not what you need to be fighting Premier League titles. So Pogba, get rid. Cristiano Ronaldo. It's interesting because Erik Ten Hag's top goal scorer this year has been Sebastian Haller, who in the Premier League a few years ago under West Ham didn't have the best time, but Haller was banging him in the Champions League earlier on this season. They got knocked out in the last 16, Ajax, but Haller's not a player who presses from the front either. He's a bit of a target man, a bit of a goal scorer, like Ronaldo. And Ten Hag's teams don't necessarily they don't play a high press system. They play a possession style system, which Ronaldo is not bad at. He can keep possession of the ball. So I'm going to say keep the transition with Ronaldo. He's proven against recent hat-tricks against Spurs and Norwich. The Spurs one, obviously, amazing hat-trick. Won that game single-handedly for United. But he's shown that he can still do it and still score important goals. And I think it'd be silly to get a player of his calibre out of the club. So I think keep a transition with Ronaldo. Jadon Sancho, he's a Ten Hag player. Ajax are so good at keeping the ball in and around the box, little short passes, intricate movements, and working their way through. And Sancho is so good at that at Borussia Dortmund. And hopefully he can replicate that form that he showed in the Bundesliga in the Premier League next season. I'm so hopeful for Sancho under Ten Hag. I think he's definitely got a future at the club. He's on a long contract, and we want to see him go get those goals and assists that he was churning out in the Bundesliga a few years ago. And I think he's got it in him. I want to see him go to the World Cup because I think he can be effective. So yeah, I think he's maybe one to watch out for in terms of a star player for United next season. So Sancho is a Ten Hag player. He stays. Marcus Rashford. This guy has lost all confidence this year. He's been, frankly, poor, rubbish even, when he has played this season. Whether that's partly due to the management, him losing his confidence, or whether it's down to himself, or whether he hasn't enjoyed being in the dressing room, which is definitely potentially the reason. Under Ten Hag, I really hope that he recaptures his form that he showed a few years ago, but I'm just worried that I think maybe his time in a United shirt is done. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money to get him, and I don't think that anyone will take him for the amount of money it will cost. But if anything was, if an offer was to come in, I'd sell Rashford now. He's played 300 games for Man U, which is crazy given how young he is still. But yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time for him to go. I really want to see him flourish, and I just don't think United's the club for him anymore. I hope I'm proved to be wrong and Ten Hag brings the best out of him, but I think on that left-hand side, Sancho should play, which means Rashford is going to have to resign to a place on the bench, which is not where he wants to be. He's not a central striker. He doesn't play on the right, and I think Sancho will be best operating on the left-hand side. So I think Rashford, to start Premier League games, he needs to go. I don't think he'll go, but I think if they did get the money, he should. So there we go. We've gone through the whole United squad, and we've decided who's staying and who's going. The 5 we decided that are definitely staying: David De Gea, Scotty McSauce, Luke Shaw, and Jadon Sancho, and Hannibal. And obviously I was joking about Phil Jones. He's got to go as well. He's taken up that number 4 shirt number, and I think, yeah, it's time for Phil Jones to move on to pastures new. So we'll wait to see where he pops up next season. But yeah, if you have enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe and give it a like. Be really appreciative of that. We're up to 50 subs. If we can get to 55 with this video, that'd be brilliant. Maybe going to do another one, deciding who should come in and replace the Paul Pogbas, replace the Jesse Lingards, replace the Phil Joneses of this world. So we get 10 likes on this video, I might do another video on that. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely rest of your day.